My name is Dianna Cohen, and I'm going to try and go through these relatively quickly, like I said. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Plastic Pollution Coalition. We're a global coalition. We were co-founded in the end of 2009, and our mission is to stop plastic pollution and to raise awareness about the toxic impact of single-use and disposable plastics on human health, animal health, the environment, and the ocean. Originally, I'm a visual artist. I studied at UCLA, I studied biology and fine art, and about 27 years ago I started making work out of plastic bags that I was cutting up and sewing back together. Really excited about plastic as a material because I feel like it's such a loaded material and it represents the future for me in my life. And I still remember that scene from The Graduate with Dustin Hoffman. There's a great future in plastic. I make two-dimensional pieces and three-dimensional pieces and large installations and sculptural pieces. I've been showing them in galleries and foundations and museums over the last 25 years. And in working with the material, some of the bags that I used in my pieces started to fissure and break down into smaller pieces. And the amateur biologist in me became very interested in knowing why that was happening and imagining initially, that it was because the plastic was ephemeral like us. And when I started to look into that further, I found out actually that's not the case with plastic. And that, in a sense, all the plastic that we've ever created, unless it's been incinerated and become particulate pollution, still exists in some form or another. And I also started to learn that there was a lot of plastic getting into the ocean. These are some really staggering statistics and headlines that have just been announced in the last year, actually. One is from Plus One. It's that there are over 5.5 trillion pieces of plastic in the ocean, which is over 250,000 tons of plastic. And then at the beginning of this year, the Ellen MacArthur report was released at Davos at the World Economic Forum. And the headline for that was that by 2050, the oceans will contain more plastic than fish by weight. I just want to say that to you guys and let it sink in, because I live in California and I spend a lot of time in the ocean, and I totally have hats off to all of my vegan friends in the room, but I do eat seafood, and it's really alarming, and we're actually finding a lot of microfibers and microplastics now as well in crab, in lobster, in different bivalves, and it's a real marker for environmental toxins, including chemicals used to make plastic and which leach from plastic into our food system. I'm going to try and play you a video if we can get it to work, and it'll give you just a 3-minute overview of our work, and then I'll come back and talk to you about some solutions that we're implementing.
Open your eyes. When did we become a plastic society? We got plastic bags, plastic water bottles, plastic straws, plastic cups, plastic wrap, plastic utensils, and plastic to-go containers. Plastic is a substance the earth cannot digest, and every bit of plastic that has ever been created still exists. Every day in the United States, we throw out almost 88,000 tons of plastic. Now, what happens to plastic after you use it? Well, most of it goes into landfills. A portion gets into the water course and eventually ends up in the oceans. Recycling is not a sustainable solution. It's actually called downcycling because plastic never goes away. Consumption of disposable plastics has spiraled out of control. What is the number one thing plastic is made out of? Well, every year we use 17 million barrels of oil to make plastic water bottles. This is enough to fuel 1 million cars every year. Plastic pieces on the ocean surface now outnumber sea life 6-to-1. Plastic makes up almost 90% of all trash floating on the ocean surface, 46,000 pieces of plastic per square mile. What effect does plastic have on human health? Plastic chemicals like BPA are absorbed by the body. Studies show that they alter hormones and disrupt the endocrine system. By refusing disposable plastic, you can improve the health of the ocean and the environment around us, including human health and animal health. Since 2009, Plastic Pollution Coalition has been building a global alliance to combat single-use disposable plastic. Our membership includes individuals, organizations, NGOs, businesses, campuses, and policymakers. We share resources, tools, and messaging with our coalition to develop a broad-based strategy to tackle the issue head-on. We're working with universities, businesses, festivals, musicians, and more to create replicable and sustainable approaches to eliminating single-use disposable plastic. Plastic pollution is a global problem that humans alone have caused. We can do something about it. Please join our coalition. For more information, visit www.plasticpollutioncoalition.org. Remember, bring reusable items with you, like a water bottle, a cup, a bag, utensils. Refuse plastic when it's offered. And remember to say, "No straw, please." Only purchase items in sustainable packaging, like glass and wax paper.
Thanks. So as I mentioned, I'm a co-founder of Plastic Pollution Coalition, and what's ended up happening is I've found a way to take what I learned through the artwork that I was making and begin to use my work and meet a lot of other artists and use their work as a teaching tool and a way to reach out to other people and connect with them on different levels, not just on a, cerebral plane. So I think I might move through these relatively quickly. I tried to include a lot of images from different projects that we've done over the last 7 years. Behind us is a large-scale mural that's traveled all over the world. It's called Ocean of Plastic, and it's something that I made with 200 kindergarten through 5th graders in Barcelona at the Benjamin Franklin International School. And it's currently being shown at the US Embassy in Mexico. This is a piece we made that's called Sea Change in the Bahamas. It was part of a youth summit that we did last summer. And really interesting to work with elementary school students and high school students who are all working on this issue, and a lot of local groups. And I think I should also explain that Plastic Pollution Coalition is made up at this point of over 500 businesses and NGOs, and we're a global organization. So it is groups working all over the world, and we have as diverse a range of the groups in our coalition as small turtle habitat restoration groups based in Costa Rica or on an island off the coast of Greece, to Conservation International. And it was a very fun day for me when I received an email from both the Girl Scouts of America and the Teamsters asking to join our coalition the same day. We've also been part of a number of different exhibitions in museums and at natural history museums over the last 3 years. One started out in Anchorage, Alaska. It's called Gyre, the Plastic Ocean, and just traveled for the last 2 years. I tried to include a little bit of work so you could see some of the pieces in it. Sorry. Something I really want to highlight, because I noticed yesterday that people were not talking about the human health impact of a lot of the things that we're talking about. And just even from yesterday, where water was really something that everyone used as an example, we have to think about our delivery systems and how we bring water to systems around us. And I asked a question yesterday, which I think is very valid still, which is, I remember in the early 80s when plastic bottled water arrived at UCLA, and I was a student there. And I feel, looking back, that was a seminal moment. It was a moment for me and a lot of people around me in Los Angeles when we may have started focusing our attention on plastic bottled water and moving our attention away from our municipal water source. And as I mentioned yesterday, I think that that's a really dangerous situation to be in. I think it's important for us to protect and maintain and create sustainable infrastructure at the community level and obviously at the city level, state level, and nationally as well. So plastic pollution, the chemicals that are used to make a lot of the plastic packaging that we eat and drink out of every day and that our food is packaged in include chemicals like you might have heard, this is BPA free. Have you guys heard of bisphenol A? Yeah. So it turns out that the replacements for bisphenol A, like bisphenol B and Z and S, are equally bad, if not worse. So that's what's in something when it says it's BPA free. I don't know which one, and I've had the head of the endocrine disruption department at the CDC tell me that they cannot track the markers quickly enough, and for some reason the plastic makeup, the packaging is proprietary from the companies, so they're not able to know what it is, and they're trying to quickly test for it. Every time I go to visit her, I walk out pretty alarmed, actually, about the high level of bisphenol A in baby diapers, adult diapers, in receipt paper that we get for thermal paper, all kinds of things. We absorb that through our hands. So it's really important to at least begin to become aware that all of the plastic that we eat and drink and store our food in is actually potentially leaching micro amounts of certain chemicals like bisphenols and another group of chemicals called phthalates into our food and into our beverages. And those chemicals have now been identified as endocrine disruptors, which means that we're dosing our bodies with something that behaves like a synthetic estrogen. And it can turn things on and off in our bodies, including for babies in utero, it's been linked to shortened anogenital distance, smaller penis size, feminization of boys, so boys getting breasts, early menses in girls, and lower IQ, and attention deficit disorder. And just in the public at large in general, these chemicals have been linked to, and specifically bisphenol A has been linked to obesity and diabetes, to lower sexual function, sterility and infertility, and to breast cancer, brain cancer, and prostate cancer. So it's funny for me because I started out as a biology major and then ended up with a degree in art and fine art, but my artwork has taken me on this path really back to an issue that affects our health. And it's also very personal for me and my family because my mom died when she was 43 of breast cancer that was estrogen receptive. And frankly, I didn't know any of this at that time. And just you'll have to excuse me for a second today. I'm very emotional from Leilani's talk and Bob's and Douglas's prior to mine. I don't know why, just today. So we've also put together a number of symposiums that included scientists and activists and artists together. We did this at the Center for Disease Control when the Gyre exhibition was at the David Sensor Museum. So simultaneously we did that. And I'll just run through some of this was at the Natural History Museum in Athens, Greece. The show just came down at the end of May. It was called Message from the Sea. Again, it was science about what's going on and the impact of plastic pollution in the ocean, and then artists' work and photography as well to complement that. This is a show that's currently up in Hawaii. They just extended it through October. It's called Plastic Fantastic. I'm one of the artists included in the show. I actually, me and the other artists got them to add the question mark. I said I wasn't comfortable with being in a show that was just called Plastic Fantastic. I'm including a little bit of some other artists that we work with, their work. This is Alvaro Soler Arpa. He's based in Barcelona. We opened 2 shows with him earlier this year. And he makes these incredible pieces out of, I describe them as contemporary dinosaurs. He wires the bones of dead animals together, and then he fills the chest cavity and the abdomen with plastic pollution. And his exhibition is called Vida Toxica, so toxic life. This is a performance artist named Lila Rue Duncombe. She is the same age as the amount of time I've been making work out of plastic pollution. And so I call her my Frankenstein baby, even though she's a beautiful young person. She makes very powerful work, though. Let me just come to solutions. So I am so thrilled, and I was so thrilled to find out that Viken was going to have a machine here and have a machine, and that they would be providing, and Amy would be providing stainless steel bottles that we could all use at this event so that we wouldn't have to take disposable items. And just next to that, I'm really proud. We're having a drought in California, but I am growing my own fruit and vegetables. And that's what I do use water for, and I even save the water that I use when I'm washing my dishes and dump it out there. This is a project that we launched 3 years ago at Bonnaroo Arts and Music Festival. It's outside of Nashville, Tennessee. It's the largest music festival in the United States. It's between 60 and 80,000 people, and they camp for 4 days. And we launched a program with them called Refill Revolution, and the idea was about plastic-free touring. So people coming into the festival had the option to purchase with their first beer a reusable single-walled stainless steel cup with a neoprene strap and a carabiner, so they could hook it on their jeans, they could carry it around with them the whole time, and then every time they used it, they got $1 off on every beer. And Bonnaroo is lucky because they have their own water aquifers, and they provided a lot of spigots and water refill stations for the concert goers. So it's been a very successful program. We've scaled it up, and this was our 3rd year. I don't have the numbers from this year, but I know that in the first 2 years, we saved with them over 1 million plastic water bottles and 60,000 compostable plastic cups. This is something I do. I don't know if I've had a chance to hang out with some of you, which I've really appreciated in the last 24 hours, but I carry my own bamboo utensils with me in my purse. I also carry my coveted reusable stainless steel straw, and Amy made sure that she provided them for everybody, so I hope that you make sure to grab one and you can add it to your backpack or your stuff. I wanted to just include a few easy items that I thought, if you're interested in this, obviously you can learn more, and we have a website, it's plasticpollutioncoalition.org. We have a very active social media at Plastic Pollutes, but just some simple things that you could take away, thought-wise, with you. And they are, just please think reusable and not disposable. If you've got a couple extra minutes when you go into the market or when you go somewhere, just have a little bit of forethought about it. And if you've forgotten to bring a reusable bag when you go to the market, ask them for a box, or if you're not buying too many things, carry out in your arms what you've got until you retrain your brain, because it's really about kind of collective major behavior shift. And we have to embrace it and begin at least start with one little thing, like Leilani said. So you can bring your own reusable bottle or cup. I do both of those things. I love doing it on airplanes, and they fill it up with hot water for me. I even carry my own tea bags, but I'm like a camper. Whenever I order a drink, I always say, I'd like an iced tea, I'd like a margarita, no straw, please don't put any plastic in my drink. And it always elicits interesting conversations with people. A lot of times people say, oh, does that have to do with like that big Great Pacific garbage patch out in the Pacific Ocean, the plastic, what is it? And I say, yeah, it does have to do with that. And I also want to save sea turtles, so I don't know. I just don't use plastic straws. And then you can also ask for products that are packaged in paper, or ask for products that are packaged in glass. And it's a really fun engagement with your local markets that you go to, or health food store. And I think it's something to aspire to. And if you own businesses where you're packaging products, I beg of you and ask you to please look at your whole stream and see if there are ways that you can reduce your plastic footprint within your school, business, company, whatever it is that you are producing or providing, whatever service you're providing for people. These are a few things I use at home. I really like using baskets. Oh, and I just wanted to point out that plastic pollution does have a relationship to global warming and climate change, in that plastic is primarily made from byproducts of processing petroleum. And we actually now know that it's a solid chunk. It's something like 20% of our petroleum. And I've spoken with friends who are veterans of the first Gulf War, et cetera, and they say, I just had these epiphanies while I was out there. Why am I fighting this war so that we can make a bunch of single-use and plastic disposable garbage? So I think you need to realize that every time you use something, every single time, and even if it's a paper to-go cup and the top is that plastic top, I just learned that those are made out of compressed polystyrene. So you probably don't want to put hot liquid beneath them, because polystyrene's been linked to, it releases formaldehyde. Oh no, sorry, not formaldehyde. It's an endocrine disruptor. No, it's a neurotoxin. Sorry, I'm looking at the lights. Sorry, it releases a neurotoxin, and they're now in Hawaii. They're working to try and ban polystyrene, and I think you guys may have seen that McDonald's at some point also, through the work of some of our coalition members, like As You Sow, and that was shareholder pressure. They changed their packaging away from the polystyrene containers, which I think was very wise. With that said, I will close by asking you please to consider refusing, whenever possible, single-use and disposable plastics, and I hope that you will all consider joining Plastic Pollution Coalition. We need everyone in the world on board for this, and we're happy to work together. So, thank you.